Lamar Dean stood with his side against the bar so that he was facing the first Apache. "Maybe they've been drinking Tiswin," he said. "Maybe that's why they brought the nerve to come in here." Early said it would take a week with Tiswin. "They got time," Dean said. "What else do they do?" "That's mescal," Early said then. Lamar Dean went on staring. "I guess," he said. He moved toward the first Apache, holding his drink and then sliding his elbow up along the edge of the bar until he was right next to the Apache. Early stayed where he was. "Mescal," Lamar said, "but it's still not allowed, not even sticky sweet Mex drinks." The first Apache, not even knowing what was going on, raised his glass. It was right up to his mouth when Lamar Dean nudged him, reaching out and pushing him a little, and the mescal spilled over the Apache's chin and down over the front of his vest. He looked at Lamar Dean then, not understanding. I guess not sure if it was an accident or what. "They just can't hold it," Lamar Dean said. "Nobody knows why, but it's a fact of nature." He raised his whiskey right in front of the Apache, as if daring the Apache to try the same thing on him. That's when Russell stood up. His eyes never left Lamar Dean, but his right hand closed on the Spencer, and it was down at his side as he walked over the few steps to the bar. Lamar Dean was facing the Apache, starting to drink, sipping at the whiskey to give the Apache all the chance he needed, like saying, "Come on, nudge my arm and see what happens." Then his chin raised as he started to down the whiskey. Russell was right there, but he didn't nudge him. He didn't ask or tell him to leave the Apache alone, or say anything like, "If you want to pick on somebody, try me." He didn't give Lamar a chance to know he was there. He just swung the barrel of the Spencer up clean and quick before you had a chance to believe it and was happening, and the barrel shattered the glass right against Lamar Dean's mouth. Lamar jumped back, dropping broken pieces with blood all over his hand and face. I think he would have tore into Russell the next second with his fist or his revolver, but now the Spencer was leveled at his belly, almost touching it. Early had his hand on his gun, but it had happened so fast that he couldn't do anything. Russell said, "No more, huh?" Lamar Dean didn't say anything. I don't think he could talk. Russell said, "Before you leave, put money down for a mescal." That was John Russell, no older than I was at 21 and no more Apache than I was, except he had lived with them, the wild free ones in the mountains and the wild caught ones up at San Carlos, about half his life, and that made the difference. He was perhaps 1 part Mexican according to Mr. Mendez and 3 parts white, but I will go into more of that a little later. Right here I just wanted to tell you about the first time I ever saw him. That comes from Hombre by Elmore Leonard, part of June on the Range. Welcome back to Dishelved. I'm Adam White. Again, we're taking part in June on the Range, authored by Michael K. Vaughan. Elmore Leonard is known probably more for his crime novels like Get Shorty and Kill Shot and 52 Pickup. Rum Punch. I mean, the list goes on and on. He wrote 30 or 40 of them at least. But before he did that, Elmore Leonard was a Western writer. He wrote for the pulps, and he wrote a lot of Western books, including this one, Hombre, which is that's said to be one of his best ones. It's really a terse book. It's only 184 pages. He wrote in a style that got right into the story, stuck to it, and got out when the telling was done. I mean, he didn't leave flowery descriptions of things. He just told things straight up. And I really like that style of writing. He did the same thing in his crime novels too. He really is an excellent author. I'd recommend. I've read a lot of his crime novels. A lot of them have been turned into movies too. But this one, Hombre, is about a man named John Russell who is a boy who was captured by the Apaches when he was young and spent half his life among them, and then was rescued and brought back among the white people, even though his formative years made him mostly Apache in his mind, if not in fact. And this story is told in first person by a character that's not John Russell. You could see by the section that I read. He tells the story, and you get to see John Russell through his eyes, and the other characters, they go out on a stage coach, which is not really a stagecoach because they've shut the company down in the direction that all the characters were going to go. And they end up having some trouble. They get robbed, or attempt to get robbed. And then the rest of the novel is them trying to get away. The other people that are on the stagecoach find out a little bit about John Russell's past and make him ride up front with the driver because they don't want to be around him because he was an Apache. And one of the girls, there was a 17-year-old girl here who had been captured by the Apaches and had unspeakable things done to her, and so she was really against him too. And so they didn't want anything to do with him. Well, then after they get to the point where they're held up and can barely get away, well, then guess who they turn to help them, because he's the only one who knows what he's doing in a situation like this. That's John Russell. All of a sudden, he becomes a lot more tolerable when they realize he's the only one of them that knows how to use a gun and knows how to take care of himself in the wilderness and knows which way he's going. So they change their minds pretty quickly, like people will do when faced with adversity. Really excellent story. Like I said, you get right into the middle of it. John Russell's a really interesting character. You never quite know what he's going to do next. He has the patience of an Indian, they say, because he can sit for long periods of time waiting with a gun for people to show themselves so he can try to take them out. He was known by several names, but John Russell was his American name. And you just get to really see the different characters. There's 6 or 7 different characters that were on the stagecoach, and you get to see them through the eyes of the narrator and what those people are really like and what he thinks about them. And he's kind of the everyman telling the story. And you just really see what goes on when faced with adversity, what each character does, and who stands up for themselves and who kind of gives up and who wants to do the right thing and who doesn't do the right thing. It's a really interesting character study on the different people that are in the book, both the bad guys and the good guys. And like I said, you hear it all from the first person. It's written as if he's telling you the story, because he's written it down for posterity so that everyone will know who John Russell is. And he writes it in a conversational way. And so even the even the text, not only the dialogue, but the text itself is written in a way that you'd speak. Elmore Leonard had a really good apt way to say things, the way people spoke, and he had a good touch for dialogue in his books. Really good story, really good Western, has everything you could want in it. And like I said, it'll only take you an afternoon or two to read because it's a short novel. It's well worth your time, and I hope that you will check it out. And thank you for joining me this week, and I will see you next week for a little bit more June on the Range.